This is the plaintiff, Fadi. He says he was hired by the defendant to build a fence around her property. And the woman's neighbor got into a huff about it. And now he's not getting paid for all of his hard work. That's right. This neighbor dispute has cost him money. And he's here seeking the justice he deserves in the amount of the $1,450 he's owed. This is the defendant, Denise Landsman. She says she doesn't owe the plaintiff a penny because the job wasn't well done. She refuses to pay this guy for his inferior work and thinks the judge will be agreeing with her assessment of the situation today once she sees the evidence. She's accused of not mending fences.
All parties, please raise your right hands.
Welcome back to the People's Court. Next case on the docket, the plaintiff says he was hired by the defendant to build a fence around her property, and now she won't pay him. But the defendant says the guy did a horrible job, and she's not paying him a cent. It's the case of please fence me in.
Thank you, Douglas.
You're welcome. Ma'am.
All right, Mr. Fady, you are suing Ms. Landsman for $1,450 that you say is still owed to you on a construction job that you did building a fence for her. Let me hear from you. What's going on?
On Monday, March 7, 2022, Ms. Denise called me for a price estimate about wood fence work.
And what kind of work did she want done?
She want to tear the old fence and build a new fence in her property and her side and the side with the neighbor.
Okay, so it's a whole new fence.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like that.
And then how much were you going to charge her for that?
$2,150.
Okay. And what happens?
Later on Wednesday, March 9, Denise agreed with the price. And in the afternoon, I went to her house. She paid me.
How much did she pay you?
$1,000 in cash.
Okay.
Which barely cover the cost of the material.
How much? Well, if you were charging $2,150, how much were the materials?
Well, the material about $800.
Okay. All right, so go on.
I have here the estimate.
So what happens? What goes wrong? Tell me what goes wrong.
I start the work on Saturday and Thursday, and Wednesday, Friday, and Saturday. 3 days, I built the fence, and was everything beautiful, and she was very happy.
Okay.
And I get one day, Sunday, we stop working, resting like everybody.
Okay.
Monday, I went back to start to finish. In that 3 days, I almost finished 75% from the fence. When I went back Monday, I starting to finish the part between her property and the neighbor. The neighbor heard me working there. She come and asked me, "What you doing?" It is the neighbor complaining about fixing the fence. She want the fence be done brand new as I did in the side of her property.
Are you saying that you didn't? I'm not sure what you're saying. Doesn't the new fence show as new on the neighbor's side?
Exactly.
So what was the neighbor complaining about?
The neighbor, I show you the picture if you want. I see the,
Yeah.
Here, I have the picture. Here, the fence of Denise side.
Okay.
Okay.
And
here
then,
it is, here the brand new fence in Denise property in the side from her house to the corner.
okay.
Okay. Here it is in her home.
Okay. You're going to show me any
Here-
second now what the neighbor was complaining about, right?
Okay.
What was the neighbor
Here-
complaining about?
Here between her neighbor, this fence fixed after she, Denise, told me you have to fix it. I told her will be
All right, hold on,
extra
Mr.
day.
Fady. Ms. Landsman, tell me what your neighbor was complaining about.
after he was starting to construct the slope part, which belongs to me, a completely brand new fence. She was complaining that he had a brace. He was bracing the fence, the common fence. It's an L-shaped fence. The common fence goes in between our property, and my fence goes down the slope. So what he's showing you right there, he was bracing the fence line right there.
You mean that? Okay, you mean while he's doing the work? That's like a temporary brace while he's doing the work, but the brace is on her property.
I'm not sure whether it was a temporary brace or not. I came out to hear a bunch of yelling. When I came out and I heard the yelling, I walked out to see what was going on, and he was yelling at my female elderly neighbor, saying that her rose bushes that she planted are on my property, and they're in his way of him putting that brace up to hold the fence up. So I told him it was not his responsibility to yell at my neighbor about her plants being on my property. I allowed her to plant those plants on my property. So in essence, he had to work around that brace. That brace wasn't supposed to have been there in the first place.
So what did he do?
That caused a huge fight. That was towards the end of the day. I told him that he was extremely disrespectful, and he removed that brace.
Did it have any structural problem because of the removal, or no?
It has structural problems on the common fence because when he went to put the 2x4s on the top of the common fence, I sent a picture, but this is what it looks like. You could see where he put the 2x4, but you could also see where there's space in between, where I guess when he removed the brace, he felt that the brace was going to push it all together straight, and it didn't. So when he removed the brace, he continued to put the 2x4s on the top of the fence, leaving the fence with holes in between. There was a brace that he was trying to straighten out the fence with and push the fence together, is my assumption, and then connect the 2x4s on the top.
So what did he do wrong? That you fired him. Why did you fire him? Because of the fight with the neighbor or something else?
Because of something else. It was a combination.
What was the something else? Go ahead.
The something else was the old fence looked like this, where it has boards on the bottom. They're called kickboards on the bottom. This is what the old fence looked like, and that's what I expected it to be replaced, just like that. What I got was this type of a fence, which you also have the picture, where it does not have kickboards, and the bottom of it is all jagged along the dirt line.
Hold on one second. So kickboards should look like what? They're the very bottom so that it's trimmed?
Kickboards look like this. Exactly the way he built the gate.
Right. That's how the fence should look. And instead, show me again the picture of the fence. Okay. And is that a sloping part or no?
That is right here. This picture right here is where he built the fence on the slope. At one point, I went out to check on him, and he said that he was not going to cut it board by board, that it was too intense for him, too intensive, manually intensive for him to cut it board by board, that he was going to place all the boards on the fence, on the new fence, and then cut them and top it with a 2x4, which he did do, the top.
Are we
but
referring
the bottom,
to this
he
here?
did not.
This 2x4?
That's on the old fence, but yes, it should look just like this. It should have kickboards all along the bottom.
Okay. And, all right, so how do you tell him that you don't want him to come back?
Well, first, I'll start by saying that he started on the garage side where where the gate is attached to the wall. You could see where the fence was actually 6 feet tall, and it's been there for 23 years. And for some unknown reason, he raised the fence at at right here from 6 feet tall to 74.5 inches, and I'm not exactly sure why. And that's all the way across the whole entire gate. So I said, okay, fine, what am I supposed to do now? I left it like that. I had him leave it like that. He built the gate was correct. It's got the kickboard on the bottom. I naturally assumed, which is my fault, that the rest of the fence was going to be manufactured exactly the same way with a kickboard along the bottom, which is how every fence is manufactured out here, and it wasn't done. I Googled how to do a sloped fence, and these are the pictures that I got off Google, and you can see that even where there's a slope, they have kickboards. They all have kickboards.
And
None
what was
of
he
them
doing?
have
Was he
jagged.
not putting the kickboard, or the kickboard wasn't the end of the fence because he wasn't cutting the boards individually?
He was not cutting, he did not necessarily have to cut the boards individually. He could have placed all the boards like he did and then placed the kickboard. And then cut it, and then...
Did you talk to him about that and tell him you didn't want the jagged edges coming down?
I did,
And what did he say?
told me that he's built a million fences, and that's the way that he does it. And I said that just because that's the way you do it does not mean that it's right.
The plaintiff says he built a fine fence for the defendant, but the woman's neighbor didn't like it, and that's why she's not paying him. But the defendant says the plaintiff got in the way over his head, and his work leaves a lot to be desired. Let's listen.
Along with that day that he was yelling at my neighbor when I came out, which was the last day that he worked for me, we had a discussion. I have a huge, beautiful privacy bush that runs the length from the fence line all the way out to the sidewalk that divides my neighbor and my house. I specifically told him, do not cut the bushes. When I came out, he cut the bushes. He hid the bushes that he cut inside the bushes.
You mean
So
branches?
I didn't realize.
He didn't cut the bushes. He cut some branches, I guess?
Well, if you look at this picture, this is how
Okay,
much
what I'm
he
looking
cut.
at doesn't look like much. This is the picture that you held up a second ago. And
Right, that's one piece of it. There's two pictures, two different pictures.
yeah, I'm looking at both
That's
those
all of it that he cut. And this picture right here shows a picture of just exactly how much he did cut, where I have a huge hole in the privacy bush now.
Right. How do you expect him to work on it if there's no room for him to move through there?
Because the whole other side was open and we discussed it. You could also see in this picture how much has been cut. The whole other side of the fence is open. There's nothing there.
How do you tell him you don't want him back?
After fighting with him about him speaking to my neighbor and him telling me that he wasn't doing the proper job, I cut him loose.
How did you do that?
I said, my husband said, pack up your stuff and leave.
Okay.
And
Why do
he
you have to,
said
why
that
do you
he
have to
wasn't
say,
happy
wait till
with
your
the work.
father gets home? Why can't you just fire
Yeah,
him
really.
yourself? You don't have to say it's your husband. All
My
right,
husband did it. My
Okay.
husband did, and I said the same thing.
Right.
He said that he did a good job. I feel that he didn't do a good job.
How much did you owe him at this point? You owed him another $1,150?
Correct. And I offered to pay him $500, and I told him I don't want him back.
What was left when you said that to him?
Paint that cost me $400 to paint it because it was right before it was about to rain in March. So I paid to have it painted, which was his responsibility in his quote. Along with, I sent you a quote for the $300, I think, and $9 that it was going to take to have someone come out and put the kickboards properly onto the fence where they belong, on the slope part of the fence.
Okay. This is a picture of the fence with no kickboards. How many feet of the fence had no kickboard when you kicked them off?
The whole entire thing.
Okay. Now, Mr. Fady, where were the kickboards and why weren't they installed?
It is owner. When I start doing the fence, I told her if the kickboard touch the ground will be damaged very fast. I will raise it it 5" to 6" to have long life, and she was agree.
Let me ask you a question. What was left when she fired you? What was left to do?
Wednesday, I come for painting. She told me, yes, see you tomorrow. I came Wednesday and I come to start painting. Then she and her husband start complaining, this rail not should to be, the fence not look as the old fence. And I told her, why you don't tell me when I was built it? Right now, to do it again, it will be another day. Yesterday, I fixed it between you and your neighbor, and took me other day. It is this money. I am working not for free. She told me, you have to do it. If you don't do it, I don't pay you. I told him, what? I have to tear all the fence, I built it again? She told me, yes. I told her, impossible. If you pay me the money for another day, I will do it. She told me, get out.
Welcome back to the People's Court. The question, did the plaintiff do a good job building the fence? Should he be paid in full, or was the work shoddy? And should he end up with goose eggs? Let's go back into the courtroom and find out.
What is this additional $300 that you're suing for?
$300 because when she ordered me to fix all the broken wood between her neighbor and her property, I did. She wasn't happy because the neighbor, she want all the fence new. Then she told me, fix it, okay? And I did everything as here show in the picture.
Yeah, I got it. What was it, according to you, Ms. Landsman, what is it that you had to pay out to get the board the way you wanted it, the kickboard? You had to pay how much?
$306 and change.
And what was it you had to pay to get it painted?
$400.
So you spent a total of $706 with a different person in order to get it the way you wanted it. All right. At that point, you still owed him $1,150 at a minimum.
I owed him $1,150. Out of that $1,150, I offered him $500 to call it quits and walk away, and I'll get the rest of the work done by somebody else. And he said, no, I'm going to take you to court.
Okay. After listening to the evidence and looking at the pictures, I tend to agree with Ms. Landsman that it wasn't finished the way it should be finished and the way she wanted it to be finished. I am going to order her to pay you the $1,150 minus the $706 that she had to pay someone else to get it done. I don't find any proof that you were entitled to an additional $300 that you're suing for. I'm looking in your text, and all you were ever demanding was the rest of your $2,150. This $300 comes out of left field. When I subtract the $706 from the $1,150 that's still owed, that means that she owes you $444. You should have taken what was behind door number 1 when she offered you the $500. I am ordering the defendant to pay the plaintiff $444. That's my verdict.
Thank you very much.
Honor, I can't talk with you?
So the plaintiff does prevail. He's going to get $440, I think it is. Not exactly what he was asking for, but in any event, that's what he's going to get from the judge. Let's see what Ms. Landsman has to say about this. Ms. Landsman, what are your thoughts?
I'm great with the decision. I offered him $500 to begin with for the work that he did do, and he declined the offer and chose to sue instead.
All right. Are you happy with the fence at the moment?
I'm not happy with it, and I'm still having it fixed.
Okay. All right, Mr. Fadi, what do you think? You wanted to talk to the judge at the end of the case. What did you want to say?
It's not justice because I was going to finish everything. She didn't let me finish the job, and she lying in all of that because I did the job perfect.
Well, that's the way it goes. She does not agree with you, obviously. All right, that'll bring this case to a close. Harvey, what are your thoughts?
Doug, generally it's not all or nothing. That if somebody does a decent job but messes up on a part of a contract, a part of a deal, then you dock that amount, but they get the rest.
Have you ever had to dismiss yourself from a case due to a conflict of interest?
The only cases I recused myself from were cases where my campaign manager would appear in front of me. Even though I don't even think I had to under Florida law. I just thought it was just too much. And he ended up being my children's godparents, and I was the godparents of his kids. So, so they're just, you know, it's not just important to be fair, it's also important to have the appearance of propriety.
Absolutely.
Because you don't want people losing faith in the system.
You might remember about maybe 5 or 6 years into my career as a judge, I had that huge civil case where there was a $650 million judgment against an accounting firm.
Oh my gosh.
And then the same plaintiffs sued the international parent company of the firm, and it ended up in my courtroom. And I knew the lawyers on both sides. And on the first day I was on the case, I looked at the lawyers and their clients that were there, and I said, listen, this guy plays golf with me, you know, once every couple of months. That guy on the other side's been to my home for dinner 3 or 4 times. And I've known him for 30 years. All back and forth, right? And then I was expecting that someone would say, thanks, Judge, but we don't want you on the case. And I wouldn't have taken it personally. I would say, oh, thank goodness I dodged that bullet.
Right. Instead they all said it's not a problem.
Case, right? And I was in trial on that for 3.5 weeks, almost 4 weeks, and I missed out on going to Yankee Stadium.
That's right.
With you.
You missed the Yankee dugout.
Right, because I didn't want to leave the jury hanging for an extra day.
Yeah, how do you feel about that now?
I figured I'd be in the Yankee dugout all the time.
Yeah, apparently. How'd that work out for you?
It's like the song I got.
I kept telling you, you need to come with me. Why are you doing this?
Right?
Oh, I don't want to pause one more day.
That's it for this session of the People's Court. We will see you next time.